Welcome. This is Lead with Storytelling podcast, and today I have Tamara Ojeaga. Tamara, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And for my very observant guests, you will remember, or the name Ojeaga will ring a bell. Yes, Tamara is related some way. I'll let her tell us that story. Related some way to a certain Ojeaga who has featured on this podcast before. How are you guys related? Is he your brother?
No, he's not my brother. He happens to be my spouse. So I'm married to him, yes.
So it's a very creative family, and
You could say so. It is.
so the conversation I had with him, it was for us or for me a natural progression, just for me to ask him if it was okay to have you on, and express my wish to have you on as well. And I'm really happy that you spent time to be here with me to have this conversation. Thank you again.
You're very welcome, and I'm happy to be here.
So Tamara Ojeaga is a client director at Kantar with over 15 years of experience in market research and strategic consulting. She specializes in helping brands grow sustainably by translating consumer insights into actionable strategies. Known for her collaborative approach, Tamara partners with clients to develop branding, product, and marketing strategies that drive revenue, market share, and positive social impact. A deep understanding of consumer behavior and cultural dynamics enables her to craft data-driven solutions that deliver measurable results. Beyond her corporate role, Tamara is passionate about mentorship and empowering professionals in the market research industry. She's particularly committed to helping introverts embrace their strengths and build authentic personal brands. So join me as I join me in welcoming Tamara to the Lead with Storytelling podcast, as we discuss compelling brand stories and how storytelling can transform business strategy. Again, welcome, Tamara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Very good. I like the opening because I think before we started this conversation, we're talking about introverts and extroverts, and some of us who think we're introverts may not actually be introverts. Are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? How do you dimension those behaviors or personalities?
So there are certain characteristics that define what you would term or who you term as an introvert versus an extrovert. Of course, your extroverts are known to be like social butterflies, always loving to be around people. They like to go out. They have this high energy and they're always out there. Versus your introverts that will rather die on the hill than go out or meet people or interact. Sometimes they know they have to, so they put on a performance or they get themselves to those places because they know that the ROI on that interaction will be worth it. But more often than not, they just don't want to be there. They'd rather just be at home. So that's how I would technically define both of them. But you asked me a question, if I fall on the introvert or extrovert. I am very introverted, but in the corporate space, I'm very extroverted, and that's intentional because I know the importance of visibility, showing up, building a reputation, and the opportunities that it brings your way. So I'm intentional and I pick my battles. So I invest in the 20% of extrovertedness that needs to drive 80% results, and that's what I commit to. I will complain day in, day out, the day of the occasion, but I will go ahead and do it and I will enjoy it. But then I like to pace myself as well.
I feel like you're speaking to my daily struggle, and I'd really love to lean into this subject a little bit more because your work with your mentees in helping them shape their personal brands while they struggle with this with this demon is fascinating. So I'm going to reserve that for a little bit for later. But to just tease a little bit more on your role, and how it works, or how you make it work. How does speaking to your market research and generating or pulling insights from those results. How does storytelling influence the way businesses interpret and act on market research insights?
So, at the center of it, all our deliveries are in the style of storytelling, because that's is the best human way to pass a message across. One of the best. In fact, I can't think of anything that tops it. And so, leave the research for the geeks and the nerds that enjoy the numbers, that see the numbers, that see the connecting threads. Leave it for us internally. We liaise with our clients through stories. Like, this is what the data is saying. This is the context. This is the big picture. As you begin to drill down, these are the nuances, and this is why we see what we see, and this is what we propose or recommend that you do as a brand. So stories at the very core of how we deliver insights to clients in market research. Anyone who doesn't do that tends to lose out a little bit from the impact that they can have with their clients. But currently where I work, at the core of what we deliver, it has to be a story. Like, what is the big story? What is the narrative? What are we saying? What is the data saying? And how do we communicate it in a way that the client gets it without being overwhelmed by the complexities of what the research actually took to get us there?
Have you found some or come across come to some facing challenges in communicating cultural nuances? Because I know Kantar is global, it's international. Your client base is international, not just based in the UK or any one place. So how have you encountered that challenge of communicating those cultural nuances across different across borders, and how have you faced it or resolved it?
I guess it'll be a common thing that happen in the industry as a whole, especially if you're running multi-country studies and you're not physically present. You do stand the chance of running into such complexities. And it's totally understandable. I think what most people do to mitigate such things is to have people on the ground kind of bring them up to speed on the cultural nuances, local nuances, and the complexities of wherever coverage that study took place. And then that gets interwoven and called out during the reporting phase and when you're presenting to the client. Now, for the client to understand, it's how well structured your story is, to be honest. If your story is clear and can point out, for instance, 13 is an unlucky number in Asia, right? And so people don't feature it there. Your brand spotting that number is going to be seen as a bad omen. You really don't want to do that, right? Versus anywhere else in the world where they're indifferent. Yes, it has the connotation of unlucky, but nobody holds anything strongly towards it, right? So those are different ways, you can put things there. So for any client who then hears, okay, this is the context, and this is why we're saying what we're saying, you always need to provide a context. I think that's the best way to get around it.
I've had a cultural strategist who's spoken on this podcast before, and one of the tips that he gave was for for marketers or brand managers to try and stay, on top of cultural trends? For you,
Pop
what's your
culture, as we call it.
pop culture exactly? What has been helpful, to you in staying on top of these trends?
So in my field, you just have to be on top of things. Again, you have to understand it depends on who your client is, the kind of work you do. You have to also always prioritize who the client's audience is and understand what's important to them, what are their attention points, what drives them, what moves them, goals, aspiration, what do they do in pop culture. Whether or not you belong to that psychological group or age bracket, you need to understand where they are so that you're able to pick on the language and the things they refer to and then infuse that in whatever work you are doing. So it's really, really important that pop culture is part and parcel of what you stay on top. But over and above that, sometimes if a client a client has no idea of a region or an area, one of the helpful things you can do for that client is probably record a couple of videos of their target audience just expressing themselves, talking about life and things like that, and stitch it together. It creates a very, very good picture and provides the context that they need to better understand their clients. But if they've been working in the region for a long time, chances are in-house or internally, they would have that type of information, right? And then it'll prepare them for whatever the outcome is. But definitely staying on top of things. I mean, that's part and parcel of being a researcher, because you're supposed to be informing your clients and then the rest of the world to a large extent about the changing or evolving consumer trends.
Can you give an example of a brand story or a powerful story, from or example of how a powerful story from consumer data has helped a brand? It could be of Kantar, your any one of your
Okay,
choice.
I will first tell you that based on the type of work we do, we're not legally allowed to speak about certain things openly because data privacy, GDPR, all those things matter. But I can easily reference brands that I haven't worked with.
Yeah.
But I can tell that the consumer truth is at the core of their marketing.
Sure.
So a typical example will be like your Nike ads from the past and the way they interact. They went over and above to speak about their brand, not from a functional standpoint. They found the emotions that drive people and use that, because it was a consumer truth, to then go ahead to tell their brand story. And you've seen it in so many ads. There are so many Nike ads you would watch, you would have goosebumps and you feel like you're ready to fly. So Nike is a typical example of a brand who hones its marketing based on insights and consumer truths. Another brand that does that so well, I think there are a couple of North American brands that are great at this, honoring consumer truths, and then they even do better with their socials. Like their social media marketing teams need like raises. Duolingo is an example. I really don't know who manages that account, but that's a great example of a brand that taps into pop culture. They can hit you from left, right, center, and their consumers connect with it, right? So that is an example. But over the years, another great example would be Dove. They're one of the first people that started to tell stories or build brand stories around, especially women being normal, not your Hollywood style skinny. They will show you inclusivity at all its full length breadth, short, fat, slim, tall, whatever it is you want. And to date, that is what they still push for their brand, Dove Women, if I'm not mistaken. So those are consumer truths. That was based on the fact that I'm not that woman on TV. Your average Dove buyer is a normal woman. What does a normal woman look like? And you use that to tell stories, and that's what they've been doing for years. And that's what they've been building their brand on, right? So those are the things. Those are a couple of brands I could actually point out.
Yeah, when you mention some of these examples, I'm thinking over time we've seen also how they've been able to sustain their relevance,
Yep.
just like leaning into telling these authentic stories,
Yep.
and in a way that brings me there are bigger issues around sustainability. I mean, if we consider it a spectrum of different levels of activity and activism, and it brings me to the question, with the growing focus on sustainability and social impact, how can these brands hope to stay authentic, especially with a very in a very highly polarized world? How can they sustain this authenticity while they're on these issues, or trending on these issues?
But for me, it's very doable. Again, I have multiple hats where I work. Sustainability is one of my many hats. So I can speak about this in a factual way. It is very doable because, one, there are brands that are doing it and are excelling. So once you see that, you do know that it's possible for everyone else. Now, how can they do that? They need to then pay attention to the environmental and social cues that are important to the consumers that they serve, and find a way to integrate some of those cues into whatever product they are offering to consumers. Because we know for a fact, and I mean, my company says it all the time, consumers want to do stuff, they want to live right, they want to make better choices, but more than half the time life gets in the way. And by life getting in the way, it means that the onus is now on brand owners and businesses to meet consumers where they are, so they help them make better choices. So what do I mean when I say that? You probably go to the grocery stores or the malls or wherever it is you go shopping. If your brand has an offer or options that are more eco-friendly, that have better social impact, and it's on the shelf where you normally pick out what you pick, chances are you will probably pick your brand and its offer. And that is how you are also contributing to the impact in your own little way. Because everybody has to play a role. It's just what it is, right? So the onus is now on brands and businesses to look within. What products and services do we offer consumers generally? And how can we integrate more social and environmental positive, impact through these products and services that we offer to consumers? And that's how it begins. And the more businesses do that, the more brands do that, the more there's cumulatively more social and environmental impact positively in the world. And that's the best way I think we can achieve it. So that quote that says, all the little drops make a tiny, from the little drops make the ocean. So we need everyone to come together with better offers, more eco-friendly offers, more social impact driven offers, and then consumers buy those, and that's the way they also contribute, and everybody does the work together. So
Okay, so this is the part where I get very, very excited. Personal branding, right?
Personal branding. What about personal branding?
Okay.
Legacy.
So I have people who are listening, and they're wondering how they can do the things that do the things that puts them out there, gives them puts them in a better position to be hired by choice employers, or even to be taken seriously where they work currently. But and in essence, they're just trying to work out exactly in what shape or form or color their personal brand should take. But maybe even before I ask the direct question, the other question I mean to ask, the first thing might be, how do you perceive or define personal branding?
So I like to define it as basically your reputation. Your personal brand is what people will say when you're not in the room.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah, but I think a couple of people worry that they have to bring their personal lives out in the open in order to build a personal brand, but that's actually not the case at all.
I know I have that concern, so you can see why I'm really invested in this subject.
Well, you have the opportunity to ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, well, I'm doing this for the people. It's for the culture. It's not for me. So everyone who is listening should know I am not asking this for myself. Okay, but a case in point, or a case I like to reference is there is a very special dedication in a certain creative's book. Yes, and she's laughing because she knows. Okay, so yeah, he has a special dedication in his book, and it has your name on it. So, would you walk us through how your process in helping OJ to create and come up with idea from ideation and leading through to the, should we say, distribution of the product itself? I mean, basically, can you walk us from point A to Z of how he was able to do the thing, and maybe let's define what the thing is as well.
So, well, you have to tell me what the thing is, and then
oh my God! Okay, I thought I was being clear. Okay, so OJ over time had been very consistent and prolific in sharing thoughts, nuggets on social media, and over that time he had a muse who gave him the idea to write a book or put together a book that people can hold and put on their shelf and say, yes, I have a compendium of someone's thoughts that I really cherish. And part of that packaging, I know, or I think you helped to shape so to a great extent, he owes something to you. I was hoping that I could be modest in the way I presented it. Well, obviously you put me on the spot.
Does he really?
You put me on the spot, and there it is.
Okay,
so correct me wherever I'm wrong.
You know how these things are. I came from a personal branding perspective from day one. Like, I remember we had a strategy session, and I said to him, you may not like it, but I think it's really important that you put yourself out there, because when you show your work or you talk about your lived experiences from an expertise point of view, infusing what it is to be an entrepreneur as well, and sharing some of your stories, it does something great. It's the equivalent of building a brand. And we all know that building a brand has value. What is the value? It exposes you to opportunities. It exposes you to meeting new people, building new relationships with people. That, like, there's more good that will come out of it than anything else if done the right way. And I said, okay, I know it might be big for you because you're introverted, but we can make it easy. You just write a post every Monday. You can start from there. And so we started from there. Naturally, he's a good storyteller, so it wasn't a problem for him to write. Although he will tell you that maybe his earlier posts weren't quite great versus where he is right now. But I believe from day one, he was great. And so he started to do that. And when he started to build traction, I said, okay, add another lens to it. You're telling a lot of your entrepreneurship stories. You're telling a lot of your past experiences. Now is also time to include your craft on your area of expertise. And so he picked up another day of the week where he focused on a lot of his area of expertise, which is in advertising. And for him, he took to reviewing ads that had been run or something of that sort. So now he has 2 posts a week. I still have more work for him, but that's where he is currently. And somewhere along the lines, the idea of a book came in, so it was never part of the plan. And of course, because his Monday memos, as he called it, were so relatable, they were becoming things that were shared on social media and people's like executive or work groups. Like he would get messages and someone's like, they shared this in my group, blah, blah, blah. You know, it was a no-brainer to kind of put those into like a book, you know, and then I worked on that with him and then saw him through the process of putting the book together and helped him, you know, self-publish the book, made the digital copy. I think he made the digital copy available for free and it's still free, but then people can then buy hard copies on Amazon. And so that was my that was my role in all of it. Yeah.
Okay, so there you have it. A free playbook for anyone. If you can break it down, that's fine. But I'm just going to tease a little bit your thoughts on because people struggle, and that is real. Especially, it's harder for introverts because they find it hard to validate the need to say something in a public space. I have a friend who also struggles as well, and she was like, you know, she thinks, oh, I don't know, it just sounds so it sounds like I'm bragging or that. I'm like, well, you know, if you think about it, you're trying to help someone else, and I believe that's also at the heart of storytelling, you know, the need to help, the need to shed light on something, the need to also add a voice, because we are all individually different, and the perspectives that we bring, whether culturally or individually, even as speaking as, you know, different personalities, different perspectives, when you bring that, even in the workplace, when you deprive people of hearing your voice, you know, something dies in that room or in that conversation, someone suffers. So I just wanted to ask, what are those tips that you have or you share with people who have these kind of struggles that could help them just turn their thinking around about doing something about their personal branding?
Okay, I'll try and give 3 tips. Again, I'm very much aligned to what you said. Many times in your life, what has helped you along the way is probably someone else's story, someone else's lived experience for which you were either a part of or you heard their story. And that's why it's very important for you to equally share your story, because you're helping someone else. That is one way to put it. Now, a practical tip is if you have an accountability partner, it helps a lot, right? But even before finding the partner, you need to decide what you want to talk about, right? Your lived experience is your lived experience. Nobody can take that away from you. It's a combination of what you experienced plus what you perceived and plus, you know, the outcome in any case. And so when you share those stories, they are true to you. They're your thoughts, they're your opinions, right? And that is the approach you should take. Talk about the things you value, the things you believe, the things you've experienced, the things you struggle with in the context of either your area of expertise or what you've experienced in life, you know, and just keep it within that frame. right? If you work, if you run a business, if you had certain struggles, the common struggles and challenges people around you equally have and have brought to you, those are the kind of things you can talk about. And then the more vulnerable you are, even better, because it makes it more relatable, right? And by being vulnerable, I'm not saying you're going to bash yourself or anything of that sort. There are these thoughts we all have in our head. Best believe other people have those same thoughts too. I remember one of my posts that blew up recently. I almost didn't put it up. And the opening line is, I think, something that sometimes I think you're a fraud. At some point you feel like a fraud in your career.
I remember that.
So many people think like that, but they just are too afraid to voice it out because they believe. But if you felt like a fraud, you felt like a fraud. And when you sit down and think about it, the reason you felt like a fraud is because you have not done the job before. But the more you do the work, the more your confidence builds up and you less of a fraud you feel like. But do we feel like a fraud when just handed a new role? Of course. Because you'd be like, these people, I don't know what they think they're I pity them. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Oh, yeah.
But so that's it. So, identify the topic areas. I like to call them content pillars. If people in the creator world, I call them content pillars. Identify who your target audience is. Like, are you people speaking to someone who is like you a year ago, 2 years ago? Are you speaking to your industry people? Are you speaking to people in the space where you're trying to break into? Identify a target audience. Know what would be interesting to them that they can engage with, and then you talk about your experiences. If you don't have experiences, you talk about the experiments. So experiences, either way. I'm trying to build this is what I discovered last week. Nobody told me it was going to be like this, things like that, right? And that's how you connect. You don't have to divulge everything. You can keep it broad, but people like stories and they relate to other people's experiences, and that's why experiences and experiments are two very good things to constantly share. I rarely talk about my actual work, which I know I should be doing more of, but again, because my industry is a bit, we're here there, we do a lot of custom work for clients, so I really can't talk about that. I can talk about broadly where the industry is going, but I find that I really don't want to. So a lot of my posts are more on personal development, being, overcoming certain things as you go up the corporate ladder, building personal brands, because I've seen and I have benefited so much from building a personal brand within my organization and even outside of it nowadays. So those are the tips I will give. Know who your target audience is, choose your content areas, look for a partner, agree on a starting point. I want to post once a week. You choose your day. If you have more time over the weekend, you write something short and simple and you put it out there. Granted, you're not going to be any scholar by the time your first or second posts are going out, but that is not even the goal. People just want to hear your stories, right? And there's nothing as fulfilling as someone coming to your inbox or sending you a private message saying, I connected so much with your post. Sometimes they randomly say, can I just have a chat with you? They don't know what they want to talk about. Can I just have a small chat with you? And it's fine. That is the impact. It's fulfilling. Again, your story will have impact on other people's lives. And I tell you, the amount of messages I get from people, and I don't even post frequently, saying how, that post resonated with them, it made them do things differently. And sometimes people just come to say thank you. Sometimes people ask me for calls. And whenever I can, I speak to them and encourage them. And that's it. They may never come back to me again or anything of that sort, but I feel like I owe it to give back. And that's a little way of giving back. It's normal to be afraid to share. And maybe because we're thinking we have to share everything. No, we don't. Just share the little you can. And imagine if that was you a couple of years ago, what would someone have said that would have helped you? Those are the kind of things you should be sharing. That's it.
I think that was a very powerful part about, you're giving back. And so you won't mind my next question in that case, in the interest of giving back.
Sure.
What is one story from your career that's left a lasting impact on how you approach your work?
Oh God, is there one story?
If you give me two, no problem. I'll take them.
I have so many personal mantras. Again, I've been working for a really long time, even though it may not look like it. I'm clocking 17 years. Tomorrow actually makes it 17 years I've been at my company.
Wow. Happy birthday.
Yeah. No, happy work anniversary. And I started as a copper. So is it a story per se, or I had this review. I don't know if I've written about this. I might have spoken about it though. I had a review. You know how we have performance reviews at the office annually? And so I had a performance review with my then manager. This was like 2 to 3 years into the business. And everybody had figured out that, oh, okay, she's the one that'll do the work sharp, she'll get it done. She knows what, she'll do what she's meant to do at her level. But nobody saw anything else coming after just her doing her work. And so we had the conversation. My manager was like, you did great, blah, blah, blah. But I have a question. Like, what is it exactly you want to be known for? Like, what exactly is it? Like, what are you aiming for? To my greatest shock, I was looking at my manager like he was speaking Greek. I was like, what's this man saying? Because I had never thought about it. I was like, So I said, you know what? Let me go home and think about it. I couldn't answer him on the spot. And I woke up the next morning and I just had relevance. So I came back and I said, you know what? I just want to be relevant. I don't want to be a doormat. I don't want to be just that person in the office. That thing changed my life from then on. And do you know how it changed my life? I became very observant and then very creative. I hope nobody in my office watches this. But basically, I figured out that I could get away with doing 20% of the work that will have 80% impact. I wasn't looking for 100%. And since then, that's what I've done. I will do the things that makes my name go up real quick for very good reasons every year. Maybe one or two. That's it. And that's how I became the go-to. If you want to do this, go to Tamara. Oh, Tamara can help us do this. Oh, Tamara because I was very intentional from then on. Even at my early days, I picked my battles. And then I started paying attention to the business side of things. Again, it helped because, or what made it easier was because my spouse then started running his business and I would hear conversations. He would talk about business and I started paying attention to my business. Again, I'm in a global corporation, very different from an entrepreneur's life. So it used to excite me to see the differences, the way we did things versus how an entrepreneur will run his business locally. I work in a global company and I saw the way we were doing business. At some point, we went through mergers and acquisitions and I saw what happened during those periods. It was very fascinating and exciting, but it sharpened my mind. You know, when they say someone is intrapreneurial, so you're an employee, but you have a business mindset.
Exactly.
I built that. A lot of people don't. And people I mentor, I always tell them, pay attention to what's going on in the business. The more you understand the business, the more you're able to do work that has impact.
Yeah. And
the more you're able to achieve your whether career goals or personal goals. You know, so that one, if that's the one story, that's the story I'll give you.
And I'll take it. So I heard you, and it's really interesting because people sometimes um, I wouldn't say underappreciate, but they underestimate the power of words. So in that one moment that the person made you say that one word, kind of already shaped the way you perceive things, and so it not too far-fetched way, but it's really prevalent, where it's pressing up. An analogy that is really pressing on my mind right now to give is and it's pressing on my mind because it has to do with my daughter's birthday, which is not coming till later in the year. But as kids are, they will tell you early on what they want for their birthday, which is months and months down the
Mm-hmm.
calendar. So she says this is what she wants for her birthday, and she says she wants a VR headset, and I'm like, you want a VR headset? And she says, yes, I want a VR headset. And I said, okay. Are you sure you want a VR headset? In my adult mind, I'm saying, if I give you a VR headset, I'll give you a VR headset, but you haven't asked for the other things that come with the VR headset to make it work. And if I do give you that VR headset, it will be too late for you to ask me for anything else. That's my adult thinking. But then I
And
told
that
her,
is unfair.
is it? Is it? Really? I thought you'd be on my side
Your
here.
own
Just for a
process is
minute.
complete. Hers is still, in the making. Be fair. You're taking a gun to a knife battle.
Well, better prepared next time. So I tell her, you know what? Go and write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, do I have to? I said, no, you don't have to. But since we're talking anyway, go and write it.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, when she writes it down, something, ideas will come to her head. And of course, if you're going to be
I
writing it
hope
down,
so.
hopefully. But
I hope so.
the sentiment I was trying to deliver to her is, when you write it down and it is clear to you, hopefully you will be able to see all the ways that things branch out.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you probably have a better request to make, and
Mm-hmm.
better expectations, and who knows
Mm.
what might just come your way. And with that analogy, we come to I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is daddy brain going. Are you
It's
serious
fine.
right now? I'm sorry. And somehow it just
It's
creeped into the
fine.
conversation, and I don't know. I just dropped them off, and it's still in my head how they want me to spend money.
Yeah, because that's why we do what we do. We do it for them. It's as simple as that.
So, Tamara, we come to the second session of this conversation, which is the rapid fire questions. And
Sure.
yep, you ready?
Ready. I was born ready.
All right, like that. Okay. What's your go-to comfort food?
Oh my god, biscuits.
Biscuits, really?
Yes.
What kind?
Oh my gosh, I'm a sweet tooth, so I could do between tea biscuits, but you can never go wrong with real shortbread, like all butter shortbread.
Why does that sound so British?
I live in England.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you. I would still say that to someone who lives in Dubai, but yeah, it just sounds so British. That's fine. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Gosh, am I really one of those people? But let me see, who do I really admire? Maybe Nelson Mandela, to be honest. I need his type of understanding around the grace he gives others after being wrongfully treated. If I have it, okay. So him, I'll choose him definitely.
Well, to me, it sounds like it's not something you reflect on, and for a spot on the moment, kind of answer. That's really profound. Thank you. Okay. Beach or mountains?
Beach, because of the water, smell, sound of the waves. It's I can never get over that creation.
Okay. Favorite book that impacted your life?
You won't believe it. But
If you say Winnie the Pooh, then I won't believe it.
no. Smart Money by Arese. Very
How is
random.
Marese Ugu?
Yes, I read that book in 2018 and my life changed. I didn't put it down from when I got it. And at that point in time, I wasn't even reading. I got it because my cousin was her editor. And she's like, oh, well, by the way, I edited this book. It's going to come out soon. Here's one of my, author's copies. And she sent it to me. I read it. I stopped buying Ashobi that week. And I became such a curious financial, personal finance, what will I call it? Guru.
Okay.
I went deep down.
Serious.
And I changed my life from there. Am I consistent? No, but I made certain, what would I call them, financial moves that have forever changed my life, to be honest. That book. And it was a story.
Yes.
It was I don't know if men read the book, but if you can get it for your daughters or what.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they did. Both
changed
the ones,
my life.
Both the ones that were enthused by it and the ones that were also infatuated by it. And it went on to be a TV
series or TV something of that. I never saw any of it. The book did what it was meant to do for me. So it's the same way people either read Rich Dad, Poor Dad or Psychology of Money type of thing. Yeah. But no one had broken down finance from a female's point of view, like a normal young woman who has friends, who has a life, and stuff. Oh, it was through the stories. Yeah. I said, nah.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I mean, again, that was really spot on. What's a skill you've always wanted to learn but haven't had the chance to yet?
Skill I've always wanted to learn. The problem is like I learn a lot. It's terrible.
You would be
I think one of the skills I wanted to learn, I don't know if I really, really wanted to learn it, was coding. And I never had the patience to follow through. But now where I am, I don't think it's really needed anymore for me.
Don't worry.
So,
that WhatsApp group.
I don't know. I tend to be a lot more on the psychological side of life, understanding life, meaning, purpose, all those things, personal development, self-improvement. In terms of skills, unless this counts, but like self-defense, classes. I always wanted to be that girl who could throw a mean kick, but I am not.
I would have gone for a punch, just being able to deliver a solid, compelling, convincing punch.
So I have mean punches. I haven't practiced in a while, but I do have mean punches because I used to take boxing. I should have just gone for kickboxing. The only thing I did boxing alone.
A friend once told me that he had a teacher who taught him taekwondo, and he could not understand how the teacher could say he had gotten to that level of mastery, but he has never had to fight in his life. Like, yeah, you should definitely quit that class. Doesn't sound right.
It
doesn't sound right. But I think the what was profound about what that story was that it's not about being able to deliver the punches or the kicks. It's really about self-mastery, or
Yeah.
Tamara, this has been fun.
Same here.
I hope it's the same for you. Yeah, thank you so much. Again, thanks for doing this. You've been very generous with your time and your expertise. I've learned a lot from you today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're
Do
welcome.
you have any this shameless plugs or that you would like to? Yeah.
Shameless plugs. Shameless. Do I have shameless plug? No. Okay. I only just have advice for people. When something sits on your mind, it's sitting on your mind because you're supposed to be doing it. Leave overthinking. Leave perfectionism. Leave shame and fear alone, and just go out and do it. You don't need to know where it's going to end up, but just go ahead and do it. I, for one, I think maybe if I had a shameless plug, would be I tend to coach people, three areas, mainly around personal branding, around building their careers or career progression, especially when it comes to women and self confidence, or sometimes what they term imposter syndrome, because my thoughts around that are actually changing. Right. And then I'm very passionate about business and marketing. So, having launched a brand of my own in the past, I also sometimes help or coach people to get them to launch their small businesses, especially if it's in the beauty, wellness, or active wellness space, beauty and wellness space. That's what I would say. But not like hardcore nutrition or anything of that sort, but some skincare, active wear, and beauty brands and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So coaching, mentoring is where you find me. I just love to help people. I love to see people grow and achieve things. And so I think I was designed to be a catalyst in other people's lives, because my spouse would tell me, why is it that you can't follow you're not doing what you're telling me to do? And I said, my role is to tell you what to do.
As a purpose.
That's my honestly. And like, I have 1 hour conversations with people, and they come back and they give me feedback. The amount of things they are able to do from just that 1 hour conversation. Sometimes it gives me goosebumps. So I know where my calling is, but the Lord is my strength.
Don't worry. He will be your strength and he will see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Tamara, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Pleasure is all mine. I really enjoyed being on your podcast.
Please spread the word.
I will. I will.